Well, it's a beautiful June morning. We got an MOT booked. How do we get there? Enjoy the video. And before we get down and dirty, it goes without saying, please check you're subscribed. If you're not subscribed, why ever not? Click the dingy bell thing, comment down below, give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down if you must. All helps those algorithms. You want to contact me, churchhouseclassics, all one word, at gmail.com. There's only one of me. Might take me a couple of days or so to get back to you. Please be patient. And if you want to support the channel, and every donation is really gratefully received, then please use the PayPal link down here. Both PayPal link and email address are in the description below this feature. We may have reached a momentous event in that I've finished all of the structural welding and body welding, structural and non-structural welding, so everything is now welded up exactly as I want it. I haven't flatted those welds back, but they're not too bad anyway. I want the carpet to go back over it, you see, and you can't see it. So flat those welds back, that's all good. Paint next, followed by a seam sealer. Before paint, I might just go over some of these surfaces where there is surface rust. And you can see surface rust over there on the arch. Just treat that first and foremost. And over here, flatted welds back, and welded that hulking great chunk in too. So once that's all painted and seam sealed, and then, oh yeah, I did these chappies. So, these are a bit of a bugger, because what you effectively have to do is to cut a quarter of the tube off, so that you can get the metal pin out, and these never come out without a fight, and then weld it all back together again, and then put a 10mm drill through the middle of it to make sure it still goes through, which it does. So that's that done. And next thing I think is de-rust. Good lord. We'll have to get the fuel tank back in here. I'll have a sweep of the floor I think before I move it, because the amount of this floor was clean before I started on this most recent epilogue of work. So I had welded that in, I'd done that, and then all of this side, the arch and that piece over there is where all the crap on the floors come from. It's relentless. It looks good. I'm pleased enough with it. I think once painted and seam sealed, that'll be good. That will be good. I said no more welding, which of course then jinxed me, didn't it? This one here, this is the left-hand rear corner. So that goes there. And it's secured to the rest of the outer wing just by a line of bolts down that edge. Now, this kerfuffle here is really, really, really not uncommon. And as you can see, it is full of rust and filler. So all I do with this is I go down the edge there and I drill the spot welds all the way down where I can see them. Remove this piece. I've got another piece which I will cut out. I'll roll in a step down the edge of it and I'll weld it back on again. And then I'll send it up to Steve and say, paint that. And that's the left-hand one. And then the right-hand one is similar, So all of this is just filled down here. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's not uncommon to see them rot along this edge. It really isn't. And this also has an additional challenge of hulking great rust spot there, which I don't know what's kind of caused that. So what we might, because has the rust gone right through? No, I think that's more of a paint defect. So I'm inclined to flat the paint back. And get him to paint the entire bloody thing. But yeah, this is something that I frequently end up having to do. So on these, let's just see if we can put that down there. There is a tag of weld, a bogey there. Then it spot welds all the way down until you get another bogey down here. And I think that's pretty much about it. So I'm going to mount this on a cardboard box so we don't scratch the paint any worse. And then I'm going to see if I can't get these bits off. Well, I've zip-wheeled all of the paint off this edge. So you can see there's quite a lot of filler. So all of this white is filler. So I've zip-wheeled all of that off there. And this lip, okay, there's a little bit there, a little bit down here. But when they get really bad, this lip just disappears. You have to remake this lip up. But on this, it's looking okay. So I'm going to carry on. You can see all the spot welds really clearly now. So every single one of them now can be drilled out. And I can remove this panel. Resting on one of my old work jumpers there. Should do the job, shouldn't it? Right, so the second slug of weld is right there. One slug there. One slug there. The rest of it is spot welds. As you can see, it's off. And you can see that it's fairly compromised. It's not unusual to see them looking like this. Now, I've not turned this over yet. But that will probably clean up. I'll get the belt sander in there, clean that face up, and just check I can see nice, clean, shiny steel. And then all I really need to do is cut another one of these out, and weld the bastard back on again. That's good enough to use as a template, isn't it? I think so. Right, this is the other one. I'm expecting less joy out of this, because this side piece here seems to be fairly well filled. See down here. Filler's like about, well, it's that thick. So it's been bashed in and then filled. I will take it off in one piece. We'll see where we need to go to. This lip, I reckon, is not going to be salvageable. I reckon I'll need to make that piece up again. That's not really a huge issue, though. The rest of it, though, no, down there it's shot as well. That bit will be all right. Yes, we'll do something with it. Right, it's all going back together again, slowly but surely. So I've loosely refitted the seat back brackets onto each side. They will need adjusting once the seats are in place, and then I can put the covers over the top. But I just wanted them in place because just chasing threads out and so forth. So I got that dead stub out of there. That came out quite easily in the end. It's down here, there it is. So a little bit of heat on it, grabbed it with a mole grip, and it wound out. I've kept it for long enough. Yeah, so carpets have gone back in. I know there's holes in the carpet. When we find better carpet, they can be replaced. But in the meantime, those holes are going to be in the boot area. Reconnected all of the fuel lines, put the 54 or whatever it was litres of fuel back in the tank. New strap over the top of the tank, which is all hidden underneath this lot here. Fuel lines back in. Brake lights reconnected. So I put a saddle clamp on top of the chassis here to hold the brake lines in place, and they're nice and solid. And they're then screwed back into, let's put that there, into the ferrules. I need to put the electrics through still. Connect those back up again. Then routed all of the various bits across the top here. So that chappy there is the air suspension pipe for the rear spring. I'll probably need to route that a bit better so that it's accessible once the boot floor is in. Was working on why the fuel pressure was so bloody low on this thing, and I put my gauge on there, but for some reason put the filter on back to front. Anyway, I've gone back with the customer's original filter now. The car starts up dead easily now. So he had changed the fuel rail pressure regulator. Now he can't find any problem with the old one, but the fault with the pressure regulator on these is down here. It's softdash, it's down there. Very similar, I think, to the P38. So can't find any problems at all. Bloody good that light, isn't it? Can't find any problems at all with the old regulator. Change the regulator over, and of course it starts up no issues at all. So I've left it with that one. Couple of saddle clamps on the fuel lines that go over the top of the chassis. These are unlikely to come off again, but it is what it is. They're difficult to get off in the first place. I then put the rear lip back on that supports the seal for the lower tailgate. So yeah, and then the only other thing I've really been doing is we're going to put the Barry base box back in. I don't know what the customer's plans are with it. I think he wants to reutilise it, but probably upgrade the internals so that he can utilise, let's say, subwoofer or something from his nice Pioneer head unit up there. It wouldn't be difficult to work out how to do it, but so I'm going to put that back in. And of course, all the original fixings, they're some way past it. Now these are just M8 bolts. The two at the back here go onto the top edge of the rear cross member. So I'm going to make sure they're nice and short, or salvage a couple that are original and got decent hex heads on them. Or just get an M8 bolt and shorten it. But all of these threads are very, very grubby. So I'm just chasing all the threads out using a tap and die. And then the other thing I did, as you can see, the rear wing is just in place, but only because I filled the fuel tank up. I'm still working on the rear corners. Haven't done anything with those yet. I'll show you when I do. And then let's move that over here and that over there. And then they've been derusted, cleaned up, lubed. I'll bolt those, sorry, bolt them. I will pop rivet those onto the base underside of the boot floor. And then the boot floor is more or less ready to go back in. The only thing I need to do on the boot floor, still, and I've forgotten it, is we've got the third rib, which is beautifully painted, ready to go on, and it needs to sit here. So I'll measure where it is on the old boot floor, and then I may just pop rivet it in place. I think if it's pop riveted in place and lots of wax around it, rather than welded into place, I could weld it into place, I suppose, but I don't know why they're not welded into place already. So that's really been progress today. Saturday, a nice day. Yeah, when you're putting fuel filters on cars, look at the bloody arrow. I thought I had looked at the arrow, and because the gauge was like that, I put it on that way round, and it wants to be that way round. But then of course I wouldn't be able to read the bloody gauge. This is just my test rig for checking fuel pressure. Now when the engine's running, with the engine running, we are getting in the region of 30 psi ish at the fuel rail. So it is, I believe it is running better than it was, and it does start up really easily and readily now. I shall show you that in a second, I'm sure. But battery's disconnected and I haven't got the keys in the car, and I need to find the keys, and I'm getting on with doing some work, and I thought, oh shit, I haven't videoed anything today, so let's get on with that. Yes. Moving in the right direction. Want it back together again. MOT'd out of here. James can have it back. Need a bit of a vacuum in there to get rid of all the debris and detritus. So I might, well, once I've done the Barry base box in the back there, I might then, I need to sort out the wiring for the number plate lights, which I just chop off because I couldn't get it out, and the connectors are inside the tailgate. I didn't want to disturb the tailgate too much. I will put a connector, or I might just butt splice these together, but on the back here, and then run new wires through the rear cross member, put some suitable hose through here just to protect them, or I might just put grommets through. Hose would be easier because then it means you can just push and pull the wires through as you please, and then I can reconnect the tailgate up. In fact, there's the other end of the wire there, and there is the connectors, but without the grommets. Gotta love that. Don't know why I chopped that now. Why did I chop that? Was it damaged? I don't know. Anyway, easy enough to fix. Ham-fisted gibbon. It was probably when I was cutting the cross member out, I damaged the wiring. I thought, ah, you knob, and then put it back together again. Right, and then all of these can go back on. Seals, can go back in place. Push those back on. Tailgate back on, boot floor in. Yes. Bleed the back brakes through, because I disconnected the brakes here. I need to bleed each of the rear cylinders on the pressure circuit, and then they'll be back in service again. that's pretty much about it, really. That's been the last couple of days, kind of faffing around, getting things done, getting it back in the car, and then road test it and see with a road test whether the problem, which manifested itself on the local quite steep hill, Cries Hill, where James was struggling to accelerate up the hill. In fact, he was struggling to maintain any speed going up the hill, and I suspect that was because the fuel pressure in the fuel rail was far too low. We've had some problems with the pressure regulator on this before, but it'll be interesting to see now, having changed the regulator, whether that's fixed the problem or not. It's a little bit glossy, but same paint as I used on the chassis and the rest of the underside of the car. So that's now kind of ready for me to start putting back together again. I salvaged the cover, the fuel pump cover, from the old floor, and also the fixings that go on it. So that can go back in place. I can put all the carpets and the seats and everything back in and start freeing up all the spaces in my workshop given over to this particular strip down. Right, the other thing I want to do today, and I'll tell you about things I'm going to do, and then I do them, and then I don't video it, is I need to sort these rear corners out. It's taken me a while, but I need to get that sorted out. Well, after a world of pain in dust coming down from the roof, me flatting back, repainting, it all pickling up, getting pissed off with it, stripping it all back to bare steel, all on my own clock, of course, and everything else that just drove me up the wall. So I just sent it up to Steve. Steve, paint that. So Steve's painted that. The car is going to get a repaint at some point, but I just wanted to make it look so like the rear corners were tidy, and the repairs that I've done around the rear wheel arch look tidy. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think that looks good. So today's job now the paint's gone off on these, is to refit these. You're not even looking. Refit these rear quarters. There's a reinforcing rib that goes around the back of the wing, and then I just use M8 nuts and bolts, washers, a bit of lube, and yeah, just put it all back together again. There's nothing particularly exciting to watch. The one thing I have done, so this edge up here, which you can see is all corroded, is aluminium, or Burma Bright, be aluminium by this point. There's supposed to be a captive plate that then fixes through there. Now, the only thing I can do with this, aside from pop riveting something onto the edge, is to do something like this. Well, I've got a little L section, you can see I've just painted those. And the idea is that more or less wedges into there, and there's enough of it such that this piece here will stop the thing from coming out. So what I've done there, just chopped it, welded a couple of bolts in like that, and then that will allow me to fix the leading edge of the rear wings back onto these pieces here. Okay, because I've lost a lot of the structure around. Sorry, walking around the workshop here, folks. Lost the structure around the mounting point. That should be a lip like that then has a couple of holes through it, and on the back of it was a steel plate with 2 bolts that came out of it, captive plate. And obviously the reaction between the steel and the aluminium has just rotted it out. So there's nothing you could do really there. There's paint on these both these surfaces here, so the steel and the aluminium here won't cause too many problems. But right, I'm going to crack on now. I should say quite a lot in these videos, don't I? I'm going to get on with putting these wings back together, and the music's going to go on. And then once these wings are on, I can fit out the boot, I can put the rear bumper on, and we can get this car into a state where it's going to be ready for an MOT, I think. Ah, it's the other way round. Yes, it is the other way round. So, the reason it's the other way round is I need to get the bonnet off and sort out why there is still some moisture coming down through the back of the dashboard past the swimming pool. I'll sort that out. That's a me problem, not a you problem. So, yeah, the back end's all back together again. It was a fair amount of aggravation. My carbon monoxide alarm's going off because I dared to start a car up near it There we go, it's just gone off. So I got all of the Brooklands bumper and everything back on, got it lined up as best I can, and it is all kind of as I would expect it. Opens, closes nicely, and I've still got some jobs to do. I need to secure the rear seat belts under the floor. I need to underseal underneath the boot where I've been doing all the welding, and just check all the fixings around the rear bumper are good. The ABS light was not going off just now, but then pumped the brake pedal a couple of times, and the traction control light went off, which indicates we're getting up to the right sort of pressure, which is good. It's a good thing. Yeah. So that's been quite a lot of work today, actually. I still need to adjust that. Look. Sometimes you just have to adjust these things. Gap on this side is bigger than it is on the other side, but this door does not fit. It's not a good fit. So I think when it comes to painting this car, we need to reshim all these doors up, get them all looking beautiful. Yes, but it is together, which is good. Right, now it is 7:15. I'm going home. Well, now the back end of the car is all back together again and on the ground. Looking magnificent there. Minor issue with the paint. The car's about 4 or 5 different shades of blue here. So that matches beautifully with the front wing, but doesn't with the back wing. I'm going to have to dust it in. Also matches the rear bumper, matches the tailgate. And, oddly enough, on this side, less of an issue, but it still stands out, matches the fuel flap. Oh, it's part of the problem with painting things that aren't actually on the car. But never mind, I'll be able to sort that out. So the next step for this, really, is MOT, and then repatriate. Now, before MOT, the customer complained that he was getting the steering wobble of death. On this thing. So I've double checked, well, I've removed the track rod arms, checked for play in the end float, play in the swivel pins and also in the wheel bearings, and there isn't any. You can see here I've made myself a little note, gasket needed, because the drive plate gasket is leaking. So I'm going to whiz that off in a second and put another gasket. This side's fine. And everything here was rebuilt a year or so ago. I need to check to see what I did with this. I do so many front axles, it's difficult to remember sometimes without referring back to the invoices to find out exactly what we did. Anyway, a couple of things that I did find. First and foremost, the original damper, that was what was on the car, was mounted back to front. So the body of the damper was mounted on the track control arm, and the piston was attached to the differential housing. It should be the other way around. Body should be attached to the differential. Anyway, then on top of that, it's missing its dust guard. The ram's looking decidedly tatty. It's leaking oil, and also it's not particularly smooth throughout its range. Customers provided that, used old stock, or new old stock, sorry, I should say. Never been fitted, so I'm going to lob that on and we'll see if it helps. Otherwise, I'm just going to go and get a Monroe steering damper, Monroe black steering damper, which is kind of the 50 quid budget item that I kind of prefer. Not budget, sorry, middle of the range item that I prefer. Now, the other thing I noticed, the steering's not centred. It's easy enough to centre these things. Let me just go down to the floor. Just found a stone there, it went straight to my hand. On the back of the drop arm, there's a notch. On the underside of the steering box, there should be a hole. The two need to line up. That then means the steering box is lined up. Once you've got the steering box lined up, then you can centre the steering wheel and you can centre the drag link that goes across to the left-hand hub. This was a long way out. And then once we've got the wheels back on, I can adjust the bump stops that stop the axle from bumping too far. So that's been that. The other thing was, when I was messing around with the drop arm, I did notice there was the tiniest bit of play in there. There's barely any play in there at all now. I've got the keys out, so the steering lock is on, so I'm not going to be able to woggle it back and forth. But, and this is quite a common problem with Range Rover, V8 Range Rovers, you can't get access to the top of the box because it's hidden down there somewhere. Get my torch on it. There it is down there. Ah, do you take the aircon pump off? No. What you do, curveball here, and this is a serpentine engine, obviously, this is a softdash Range Rover, is you take the viscous fan off, you take the tensioner and the belt off, and then you get access through here, loads of access to adjust the box, which is exactly what I did. So box has been adjusted just to take out the tiniest bit of play that was in there, and now it's all going to go back together again. All back together again, steering damper on, got it in the roughly straight ahead position, and the steering wheel's about a quarter of a turn out, as you can see. So I need to, realistically now, I need to get the steering wheel off. So let me just position you so you can stand over here and you're out of the way. Now there's a couple of fixings on the back of the bag, airbag. You need to have it kind of at that angle in order to access them anyway. And the T30s. So I'll just use T30 bits. Battery disconnected, folks. Battery's been disconnected for, well, all day long. Because obviously you are messing around with an airbag. Don't put your face between it. Right, and the screw fixings actually stay in the steering wheel. That bottom one's still connected. Just. There's not a lot in it though. Right, okay, now those two screws are out. Airbag is out. Now undo the red connector on the back of the airbag. Airbag can go over here. I'm going to put it face up. When it comes to airbags, you never quite know. There's an explosive charge in there. There's a metal plate on one side of it and a bag on the other side of it. And if you want anything to go up into the air, you want the bag to go up into the air, not the metal plate on the back of it. That said, hopefully it's not likely to go off. Now, I need to get the steering wheel off next, so undo this nut, and then I'm going to see if I can't rock the steering wheel off. On this style of wheel, you can't pull them off quite as easily as you can with the non-airbag systems, where you have a puller which goes across there. It might be that I can use these threaded, no, they're not threaded holes. These things aren't normally difficult to get off. So I'll undo the nuts. The nuts. Socket sets. Because then what I'm going to need to do is, with the nut off, I'm going to really need to reconnect the airbag and then drive it up the road, check the steering is central, because there can be a spline or two out and it could be really irritating if you put the whole bloody thing back together again and it is a spline out. That is known in the traders, shit happens. Right, there we go. Nut is coming loose. Now don't take the nut right off. There'll be a reason why you don't want to take the nut right off. There we are. Steering wheel's free. This has been off not that long ago. And I can take the nut off. There's the steering wheel nuts. Go down there. And then the wheel can come off. But I'm not going to take it too far away because the cartridge is behind. Do I need to? I need to disconnect. Just remembering how to do this. So I need to disconnect this wire here. And then that comes out of that clip there. And that comes out. And those two chappies then can go through the steering wheel. Like that. Because what I then need to do, and I'm going to take these right off because then I can show you how it is I move the cartridge round for the cruise control. So normally you get a button on here, push the button, wind the cartridge round until the tape lines up or thereabouts. The cartridge is on its locating tabs, which is fine. That's more or less horizontal now. So then I can feed the two wires back in again, in through the hole in the top of the steering wheel. That goes in, That goes in. It's dusty, the steering wheel. Look at that. Horrendous. Car needs a detail. Been in my workshop too long, hasn't it? Right, and then that needs to come through. And once that's all roughly in place, we'll just pull the wires in, and then the steering wheel needs to sit on the cartridge. That's more or less there. Let's just double check that we've got the cartridge in. The cartridge is on its lugs. The cartridge is still centered. The steering wheel is on the lugs on the cartridge. They go through these holes here. I can see they're located. I can wind the nut on a couple of turns just so the whole bloody thing doesn't come flying off in my face. Right, and then airbag wire can route back round here. Black wire for buttons on dash can route round back on there. Right, that's there, that's there, that goes down there like that, because you've got the buttons on the side here, you see. And that's what that connector is for. And then this connector, as you know already, is for airbag. Now, we are more or less ready, I think, to just locate the airbag back in place again. So just pop the connector back on the back. Nice hearty good click there. Can I get to the back of the screw? I can. Just about. There's not a lot of room here though. So just see if I can't get that to bite on its thread. Not easily. Come on, airbag. There it goes. So that's one airbag screw held. So that's held in place now. Now I can just double check the steering wheel's straight, and if it is, then I disconnect the airbag. Sorry, undo the airbag again. I don't need to disconnect it again. Tighten up the centre fixing, and we are done. It's not difficult. That can go up there, that can go up there, that can go up there, that can go up there. Right, let's go for a drive. fine pair. Right, steering wheel was centred pretty much where I left it. The reason I went back out again was because the ABS light hadn't gone off. So I switched it off, switched it back on again. It went off, so I'm just going to read the error codes on that and see what the issue is. Because obviously I've had the ABS connectors apart at the back end for the boot floor work. It might just be that there was an old code in there, let's say, that was just preventing it from behaving itself. SRS light went straight off, so that's good news. So I just need to tighten up that steering wheel nut now, and then refix the steering bag to the steering wheel, and we're done as far as that's concerned. Nicely centered steering. I checked the steering lock in both directions, and yeah, it's got quite a good turn. So it's all centered up now. I didn't do the tracking on this, so whoever did the tracking on this decided to, and this is where you kind of end up with a problem. You replace the rods or you do work on the car, you take it in to get the tracking done, and they're precious about the orientation of the steering wheel. And the orientation of the steering wheel doesn't necessarily mean that the box is centered, which is why I've had to take the wheel off and just move it by a quarter of a turn. That's all it really took. Oh, and the keen-eyed amongst you will have noticed that the wipers haven't been fitted. Right, okay, so I took those off because I took the deck panel off because I was trying to find out where the water was leaking into the car. And I found a hole up underneath the screen rubber up here, which was... probably should have caught it the first time round when I did all the bulkhead repairs, but it wasn't one of the repairs that I did that was leaking. I filled the bulkhead right up with water, blanking off all the holes, and no water leaked into the car. But the customer's telling me, last time he washed it with a bucket and sponge, the water poured in. Where it often pours in, by the way, is on the seal, or on the door here, but that's looking intact. But that wouldn't then allow it to pour onto the floor. That would just allow it to pour down the inside and collect. When the customer had the leak, it was dripping off the brake pedal. Don't know. I've not been able to reproduce that yet, but we've got a lot of rain coming in over the next day or two, and it needs a wash anyway, so we'll be able to reproduce it fairly easily. Yeah, of course it passed its MOT. No issues there at all. The ABS fault, which has not reappeared, the codes that I hooked off when I did the blink test were related to the rear right hand sensor. Cleared the codes, checked the sensor, nothing wrong with it at all, and I've not seen the problem come back. So I don't quite know what that was all about. Anyway, yeah, sailed through the MOT, nice clean sheet, which is good. You're ready to go back to your master.